I've made millions in barbering and it's never been easier. Now I want to go over the exact 7-step blueprint in order to get your first 100,000 in the space of barbering. Starting with number 1, mastering the craft, or as I like to call it, building your foundation. Now the first thing you have to do in order to master the craft is get a very good barber kit. That way there's no barriers when it comes to creating. So if you get cheap machines, then you're going to have to replace them every now and then. It's going to set you back a little bit more than if you just got a good barber kit in the very beginning. So invest in a very good barber kit. Now the next thing is to get very good at cutting hair, and I don't mean barbering as a whole, I just mean it in a way where you could just pass as a barber. So get the hang of creating a decent fades and lineups, and then kind of work on your shear work. Those are the top 3 things that you're gonna need in this industry. And trust me, this is the most time consuming part about barbering. This is the time that everybody has problems with and they end up giving up, so just don't give up. And if you actually want to speed through this and have it take less time, then I created a course called MBU. That way you're able to just sew through cutting hair in about 14 days. I know it's pretty crazy, but I do promise you that if not, we give you a full money back guarantee. Anyways, next thing in order to master the craft is beard sculpting, dyeing hair, and then perms. These are 3 key features that could actually help you out in the long run of your entire career. So it's cutting hair and then these right here. That's gonna set you up for everything or all the basic needs that a client would have. And in retrospect, yes, every single one of these services are just gonna bring more money into the bag, but this is not about getting to the bag yet. It's about creating a good foundation. Now the game of barbering is so weird because obviously once you come across and you actually know how to cut hair, there's already going to be money flowing through. So just keep in mind that you don't want to quit right about now. Like if you're in this stage, do not quit. You could take MBU, you could learn off a bunch of YouTube videos, you could do a bunch of different things, but do not quit here. It's systemized to the point where all barbers that actually come across, and it actually gets way better when you know how to cut hair. So this is going to be the most important part of your career. Now, I just want you to know that this is the most difficult part about barbering because you're not getting paid as much, nor you're having to execute those beautiful haircuts as you're learning. So it's gonna be very difficult. All you have to do is do not quit, okay? This is the part that I urge you to not quit. Now, barbering is very weird because after step 1, which is the most time consuming part about barbering, mastering the craft, you get to see everything flourish. You get to see everything blossom in a sense where that period of time where you're learning, you're not gonna get anything in return. Do not expect anything until you come across that and encounter step 2, which is prioritizing your digital resume. Now listen, we've walked into barbershops and we clearly know who's the best off of what haircut they're giving, right? That is the worst game anybody or any client wants to play, just because you get there and you don't want to have the worst barber cut you up, which is usually the one that's available. What we do now is actually go onto social media and see what haircuts look the best on there so we could go to that specific barber. Now our digital resume is actually very important because it's going to decide whether your client goes to another barber or you. So you have to make that resume the best resume they've ever seen. This is your portfolio online. Everything you post on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere you post, you have to have those haircuts looking top notch. You want to have that client see that beautiful haircut that you're going to promote. Then you funnel him to your booking app, and then after your booking app, he ends up on the chair. That's the final goal when it comes to step 2, having them on the chair. So yes, building a digital resume is very important. Now the reason I call it a resume is not because of your clients, it's because brand deals could come up at any given point. A brand could be looking for a barber, and that barber would be you if you have an amazing resume. So what I also urge you to do is to keep it kind of family friendly. You don't want to have it, rated PG and have it like all over the place. You really want to keep it to a point where everybody could watch this type of content that you're putting out. So it's not just pictures, you also want to put out content like videos, reels, YouTube videos, and all these other things when it comes to your craft. And then after that, you have to decide what platform does best for you. Focus on that specific platform in the beginning and then kind of maneuver your way out to other platforms. But in the beginning, you want to focus on one single platform. Now, taking a further deeper look into the content creates trust, which means whenever people watch a video, it is so much of a better trustworthy option than just a picture, because a picture could be edited. A video, not so much. A video is the actual way to tell if a barber is really good or they just implement a bunch of enhancements and editing. Just think of it as an impression. If you impress someone, they'll probably want to meet you or just get a haircut by you. Now listen, I am not naive. I know social media is a whole other job in itself, okay? I know it's a mission in itself, but what what you have to keep in mind here. And it could also honestly sometimes feel like a setback, which is the worst feeling ever because it feels like you're not getting anywhere with everything you're putting out and all the effort. But just hear me out right now. Keep putting in that effort into every single one of those videos. Every detail matters, and then be consistent. Be as consistent as possible. And they know that if you give that much effort into a video and a haircut, you, my friend, are the barber to go to. And this also goes for the brand's eyes as well. If they see you constantly creating content, they're gonna want more of you because volume is the most important thing ever for brands. So if they see you promoting and at one point something works, they're gonna wanna come and pay you for your work. Off of being consistent, of course, because if you're not creating and putting effort, then nobody's gonna want you. You are valued way more in the barber industry if you actually give people a reason to watch your content. They wanna take something from your content, so give it to them. All right, so let me tap into your side. I'm a small creator. I don't know what to do. The first thing I would do is actually on Instagram and TikTok, post 2 to 3 times. But most importantly, stay on top of trends. This is actually gonna set you further than everybody else making the same type of content. You also want to steal like an artist. When it comes to stealing like an artist, you want to be able to look at other niches, but come back to this niche and implement everything you learn from that other niche. If you don't understand me, we do go over everything in MBU, but just keep in mind that you want to steal like an artist. Not just steal someone else's content, because everybody in the barber industry is just copying themselves. You have to get something out of another niche and implement it in the barber world. That is the way you're going to stick out. Next, I need you to post 20 times and see what video performed the best when it came to 20 different reels. That will give you the key in order to know what your audience really wants. And within those 20, yes, try different formats, because that specific format is going to be the one that you're going to be using if it works. There's 2 types of styles in barbering that will really get you views, and that is transformations. Whether that's a homeless person or someone with very long hair, people want to see you transform someone. That way they go from a complete 0 to a 10 in one single video. And then we have tips for clients. Do not give tips to barbers, because barbers already kind of know a thing or two. You want to be able to inform the masses when it comes to hair. You want to be able to inform the masses that have no clue what it is about hair, instead of other barbers that kind of have a little bit of a sense of what hair is. So here we want to tackle the masses instead of the barber niche. All right, so enough said. What do I use as a camera? Do not worry. Prop up your phone on a tripod instantly, like this, bam, and start using it. This right here will allow you to contact all your clients, as well as shoot all the footage that you need in order to get more clients and get more money. Do not make it an excuse that you don't have a camera. Guys, you don't need one. You need the will to work, the effort, and the consistency. That's about it, okay? Now you really want to engrave that in your mind. Next is setting your price and volume. This here is gonna set you up to work smarter and not harder. Now I want you to remember this. Social media is our new business card as barbers. There's no more shop signs out there. It is social media that's gonna make you different from all the rest of the barbershops and all the rest of the barbers. All right, let's go on to number 3, setting your price and your volume strategy. This is super important, because this is what's gonna get you closer to this $100,000. All right, so we just tapped into social media and actually how to build your resume. That alone could give you a bag in itself. The $100,000 alone could come off of social media, which is step number 2. But step number 3 is actually keeping it realistic and seeing if that volume and that pricing could help you reach those 100,000. And let me explain. So we just talked about your resume, but what about barbering alone? Can it make you 100,000? And the answer is 100%. Listen, there's 2 routes when it comes to setting your price as a barber. Number 1 is high volume barber, which means you're cutting a lot for the money. Then, which means in simple terms that you're mowing through haircuts like nothing and you're getting your money like that. Then there is a high ticket barber, which means that this person gets more for their haircut than the volume barber. Simple, just keep in mind that this one just charges more and this one just charges less, but cuts more. Now it's personal preference on which you want to be, and none will make you more than the other. Yes, the high volume will have to put in more work, but you will actually put in a lot more work in the high ticket barber on trying to get the sales. So let me explain. This all works as a funnel. There is at the top of the funnel one type of client, and that type of client really just goes and gets a haircut every now and then, right? They're not that consistent. Then we have the more consistent ones that are basically down to pay a little bit more. Then at the tip of the funnel is the clients that you want to have, which is basically the VIP clients that will come in and pay whatever it is because they like your vibe, they love the type of haircut that you give, and they just give you the best energy possible. Trust me, that energy coming from a client is very important, because you don't want any of them to come into your day and just kind of ruin it while you're trying to get to the 100,000. So Just keep in mind that the better the client, the better it is for your pockets, okay? And then I just want you to keep in mind that the better the client, the better it is for you in order to make those 100,000. It's just easier, okay? So easier clients are just easier money, okay? That's the way we have to think about it. All right, now this is gonna sound super simple, but if you want to decide whether you want to be a high ticket or a high volume, it just depends on how much you want to work. Do you want to work trying to promote more than what you're actually cutting, or do you want to cut more than promoting? That's really it. And then on top of that, what I suggest is if you're kind of newer, you go for the volume just so you get the reps in. And then if you're maybe like a year or 2 years into barbering, then you kind of go high ticket and kind of get the clients that really matter off of the board, off of the clients that you build from the high volume, then switch into high ticket. Of course, this is how everybody does it, but I just suggest that you do the high volume first and then high ticket, and then you have time for something else like social media when it comes to locking in the money. All right, so that leads us to step 4, locking in client retention. What if I told you there's actually a way to keep every single one of the clients that land on your chair? And that's by following 3 little tips. Number 1 is using a booking app. The easier it is to book, the easier it is to get to that cash. So what do I mean by this is don't have a booking app asking for too many questions and upgrades. Just have it as 1, 2, 3, and I'm booked for this coming week or the next day. The better you are at planning and using that calendar is gonna be better for your pocket. I actually remember using The Cut. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that app, but I actually remember using that app and having everybody just locked in my weekly schedule and being like, okay, I got this many haircuts a week. Let's go ahead and prepare for that. I'm gonna need this, and then I'm not gonna take too much of a lunch break. Let's just go ahead and have some snacks on the side of my barber station. And then boom, I'd get to working and hey, it was a breeze, it was productive, but it's because I had a booking app that really saved me. Now, tip number 2, whenever it comes to locking in clients, is offer an incentive right away. So what I mean by that is when you are giving someone a haircut, ask them to bring a friend and then you give them a discount the next time they see you. So what I mean by that is after the first haircut, you want to mention to your client that you will give them a couple bucks off if they bring a friend next time, and then that will actually give you more volume. If you're just starting off, this is amazing. It'll give you more volume. That way you're able to get more off of your time than just sitting around right after that client. So it'll give you more money, and instead of just laying around, putting that effort into the consistency that your friend brought you because you mentioned that specific incentive. Just keep in mind that you want to improvise with incentives and make sure you do this right off the bat. Honestly, you just want to inform them. So if the haircut is $50, be like, hey, next time it could be $40 if you bring in a friend, and they'll gladly bring a friend in order for you to get more volume and more out of your time. Because honestly, a lot of us have gaps within our schedule, so you could just fit in someone in, and then that takes effort that we were talking about earlier. Now, the last and final little tip that I urge you to get is their email and their phone number. Everybody has an email, everybody has a phone number. You need to get these in order to actually send them some random incentives or sales, but you're gonna need that email and the phone number in order to message them every time they don't either come back or they don't actually bite into the pitches that you have, which is kind of promotions that you're gonna send through that email, sales, and other little things. So you could even mention the incentives that I just talked about in that email or send it to them as a reminder. Guys, the more you are in their faces, the more they will think about you and the more they will come back into that chair. It's easy, don't overthink it. You just want to be part of their daily lives. That way they don't forget about you. Step number 5, add extra streams of revenue. You could actually sell grooming products. It could be your own, but that would take a little bit longer. But you could actually go to your nearest Sally's or beauty shop. But if you have your license, something smart that I used to do on my personal time is go out into, the nearest Sally's or the nearest beauty supply, grab certain hair products that are in discount, put them out on like somewhere around the room where you're cutting, and then use it on them after the haircut, and then they'll want that, and then they'll actually like ask if they could have one, and then you just like upsell it a little bit. It's the easiest thing ever, but it's just having them again in front of their face. You need it to be in front of them, that way they either ask about it or they ask about it when you put it on. Now, it's not the only way to add in more revenue. This is also something that you can do as a high volume barber, but this next tip is actually super important, and that's actually adding more services onto your list. So what do I mean by that? There is enhancements, there's scalp massages, there's black masks, and there's also facials for this. So you have a plethora of amount of things that you could do aside from a haircut. And what a better way than to keep working on one client instead of just taking in multiple. This is what high ticket barbers do, but you can do this at any given level of your career. Another idea as a stream of revenue is mobile haircuts, which is house calls basically. So you just pack up All it's going to take is a little bit more effort. You just pack up all your stuff, go to their place, drive back. Yes, you are going to upcharge them a little bit more for this, but it's going to be better for your pockets. So that's another one. Now, the main one I really urge you to do is just find a product on sale, whether it's online or at your nearest beauty supply. Just find a product that's on sale. Now, just keep in mind that if you find a product that's discounted and you could upsell it by $20, then that means if 10 people buy that product for $40 and it gives you a $20 guarantee, then that means $2,400 a year extra off of just being able to just get those deals from the hair products. The main thing here that I like to say to myself is, how can I get the most amount of money right now? Like, what is important in the moment, because I already have the client on my chair. Our next step is to actually refine a step that we've already kind of gone through, which is social media. You need to be able to collaborate and network. Now, you could cut local influencers that actually gives you like way more eyes. That way, not just your audience, but someone else's audience also sees you. And again, the more attention, more money. So that makes sense. Now, this one is a little bit tricky, but if you actually encounter it the right way, or you're in a good position, which means you're kind of around like very big celebrities. If you live in a very good location like LA, Miami, or maybe New York, you're bound to have a celebrity, if not local influencers that you could collab with. Not just that, you could actually DM your favorite musician or your favorite like athlete. And by the looks of it, nowadays we're actually able to contact them straight through DM, and if they reply, you just hit bingo, because that right there will not only bring your audience to see like, wow, he just cut like Justin Bieber up or Drake up, but no, their audience is also going to see that if they end up reposting, or if nowadays they just have clippers to clip for them and you are part of that video. So in this case, just kind of focus on dreaming and kind of shooting your shot while you don't have a full answer yet. You always want to shoot your shot. Now, it's actually not the only type of collaboration I want you to focus on. The next one is actually collabing with very good cinematographers or videographers. That way you are able to make better content and more people could see that you are actually working on the quality of your videos. Now, trust me here, one celebrity could actually change your entire life. So just keep that in mind. You want to be able to shoot big and shoot for the stars. So just DM your favorite celebrity every now and then, and maybe you could get a DM back, you cut them up and just post it on there. Just be sure to capture the moment within a picture or a video. That way you're able to show credibility. Now, last but not least, this one's very important. Think like a business owner. In the beginning stages of my career, I spent everything I made. Now, that right there was probably one of my biggest mistakes in life, because I spent everything I was making without having a plan on what the actual goal was. I didn't have a goal other than the fact that I got good at barbering at one point and that was my goal, and I didn't make new goals. So here, the best thing to do, and I know it sounds like a lot, but just track every single dollar. That means income, your expenses, and your taxes as well. You don't want to get lost when it comes to all your expenses and all your income, because it's just going to be a total mess at the end of the year when you have to pay all those taxes. You don't want to get lost whenever it comes to your funds. So income and then expenses equals the P&L, the actual way to actually track the taxes at the end of the year and stuff like that. You have to systemize all that and be sure you're at a profit. But I promise you, if you follow all these steps, you will be at a profit. The next thing you want to do when you're trying to operate like a business owner is actually design yourself as a brand. So what do I mean by this is color schemes, fonts, text on social media, and the way you actually perceive yourself online should be authentic to your true self. Like if you were to talk to me, I am exactly the way you see me right now. Like I will be smiling, I will be talking to you in this manner, and I will also be just like, you know, making a whole bunch of hand gestures and stuff like that, because that is me, okay? Just be as authentic as possible, because that is what truly matters at the end of the day. When it comes to being fulfilled, not just as a entrepreneur or a business owner, but as a person, you want to be your authentic self. And last little tip about operating like a business owner, thinking like a business owner, is actually setting 20% aside just for other things that are coming up in the future. Now, last and final little tip is set aside 20%, not for savings, but for investments. Investments that'll actually get you somewhere along the years, especially if you are a teenager. If you are a teenager right now, you really want to do this, and it's going to be the hardest thing ever, but just like barbering, if you're consistent, and if you're consistent with setting aside that 20% for investments, you are going to be rich by the age of 30 or 40 or 50, okay? It depends on how much you set aside, but I just want you to know, it depends on how good your investments are, but I just want you to know that you want to be able to invest while you are making all this money. I personally didn't, I do now, but as of right now, I need to let you know that you need to be investing in something for the much greater good when it comes to your life. Look, all you got to do, bro, is just operate like a CEO and not a guy with a clipper. Like, the guy with a clipper is worth nothing. Any guy could just go to your nearest Walmart, grab a clipper and start cutting hair. It's about operating like a CEO and getting real with your business. Now I have a real question for you, and that is, how fast are you willing to get those 100,000? Because you will get them, but how fast will you get them? If you want to speed up the time that it takes to get there, remember there is MartyBlendzUniversity.com at the first link down in the description. That way you're able to speed up everything and get to those $100,000 way faster.